Get out. You're not my daughter anymore. Those words sliced through me like broken glass, but I didn't flinch. I just held onto the sonogram tighter. Dad stood there, red-faced, jaw clenched, arms shaking. Mom didn't say a word.
She didn't even look at me.
She just crossed her arms and turned toward the window. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I had barely opened my mouth to tell them when Dad exploded. You've brought nothing but shame, he barked. How dare you stand there, pregnant, unmarried, and expect this family to accept that? I looked at them, at the two people who raised me, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing for them. Except pity. I'm not asking for your blessing, I whispered. I just thought you deserved to know. Then he threw my suitcase into the street like I was garbage. No hesitation. No goodbye. The sound of it hitting the sidewalk was louder than his yelling. I picked it up slowly, hands trembling. My eyes burned, but I forced a smile through the tears pooling at the corners. Thanks, Dad. Really? I needed to see this. I turned and walked away. No one stopped me. No one cared. But what they didn't know, what they never even bothered to ask, was who the father of my baby really was. And in less than a week, that truth would make their world spin so hard it would knock the pride clean off their faces. The next morning, I was crashing on my friend Haley's couch, still running on cold pizza and raw heartbreak, when my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I ignored it. A minute later, it buzzed again. And again. Until finally, a voicemail popped up. I pressed play. It was him.
Hey, Ava.
I heard. I'm so sorry about what happened with your parents.
I
should have stepped in sooner. But listen, don't worry. I'm taking care of it.
Just stay close to your phone, okay?
You're not alone in this. I dropped the phone. Because him was Noah Ashford. Yes, that Noah Ashford. CEO of Ashford Aerospace. The man the media calls the $9 billion phantom. The same man whose name alone turns politicians pale and turns competitors to dust. And the man who had been in love with me long before I ever knew I was pregnant. But to my parents, he was just some random loser in a hoodie they saw me talking to outside their house once. They had no idea. Until 7 days later, when he showed up at their doorstep, suit, security, and all, and made their mouths fall open like broken hinges. And me? I watched the whole thing unfold from the sidewalk across the street, arms crossed, heart hammering. They started begging me to come back. But it was already too late. I wasn't the same girl who cried as her suitcase hit the pavement. I had grown into someone far stronger. Someone who no longer needed their love to feel whole. And what came next was just the beginning. From the sidewalk, I watched the front door swing open. Dad stepped out first, still in his press golf polo, like it was just another Saturday morning. But his face that dropped the second he saw the man standing there. Noah didn't wait. He extended his hand, cool and calm. Mr. Collins? I believe you're Ava's father.
Dad didn't move.
His eyes darted to the 3 black SUVs behind Noah. The private security detail, the luxury watch glinting on Noah's wrist, the manila folder in his other hand. It all sank in fast. Then Mom came to the door. Hair curled, face stiff. She looked at Noah, then slowly turned her head toward the sidewalk.
Toward me.
I didn't move. Just stood there, arms crossed over my chest, wearing the same cheap coat they mocked when they threw me out. Who is he? Dad's voice cracked. Noah smiled slightly. I'm the father of Ava's child. Silence. It was like time just stopped. Cars rolled past. Wind blew leaves across the pavement. But they didn't move. Not a blink. Not a breath. And then, like clockwork, Dad stammered. We didn't know. That's the point, I said, stepping forward. You never cared to ask. Mom opened her mouth, but I held up my hand.
No.
You told me I was dead to you. That I brought shame. You threw my life into the street and didn't look back. Don't pretend this is about love. This is about power, about who he is. Noah stepped closer to me, gently placing his hand on the small of my back. And then, with the calm of a man who built empires, he said, "We came today to deliver something." He handed Dad the manila folder. Inside, a deed, a legal release, a check. "You've been using Ava's trust fund for over a decade," Noah said. "She never knew, but I did. That stops today." My father's hands trembled. "That money is legally hers, not yours. You've been draining it to cover second mortgages, business losses, and your own taxes. You think no one noticed?" Mom gasped. "No, Noah, please, we didn't." "I'm not here to humiliate you," he said. "But you don't get to throw her away and still benefit off her name." Dad looked at me like I was a stranger. "You're not the same girl." "No," I said. "I'm not." He opened the check and staggered back like he'd been slapped. "This is nothing. It doesn't cover the lake house mortgage." I laughed softly. That's not my problem. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't begging for their approval. I wasn't even angry. I was free. Later that evening, I sat across from Noah in the rooftop restaurant he'd reserved just for us. The entire skyline shimmered behind him. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. I nodded, wrapping both hands around the warm teacup. I think I needed them to reject me. It showed me who they really were. He looked at me for a long moment. "You were never the problem, Ava. They were just scared of your strength." "I used to think if I was perfect enough, they'd finally see me," I said, my voice cracking. "But today, when I watched them crumble." He leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. "You didn't break today. You became unshakable." I bit my lip, the emotion finally flooding in. I don't want to raise this child in bitterness. I just want peace. He reached across the table, resting his hand over mine. "Then we'll give this baby something none of us had growing up, unconditional love." I smiled, not because everything was fixed, but because I was finally building something real, with someone who didn't need me to change to be worthy of love. The next day, Dad texted, "We made a mistake. Please come home. Your mother's not well. She cries every night." Then another. "We didn't know he was that Noah Ashford. We thought you were being reckless. Please, we're sorry." And then, "The press is calling. They know about the trust fund. Please tell him to make it stop." I turned off my phone. I was done explaining myself to people who only cared when my value came with dollar signs. They hadn't lost a daughter. They'd thrown one away.
But me?
I'd gained something far greater. A life where love wasn't conditional. A future not defined by shame or silence. And for the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and finally saw someone worth fighting for. 3 days passed, then 4, then 7. By the 8th, the news had officially gone public. It started as a quiet whisper in a local business journal. Ashford Aerospace CEO seen with pregnant woman at private dinner. Who is she? By the next day, it was everywhere. Mystery woman revealed. Ava Collins, heir to the forgotten Ashford family estate. Sources confirm. Ava is expecting Noah Ashford's child. Collins family under fire for alleged trust fund misuse. My inbox lit up. My voicemail maxed out. But the messages that poured in the most were from my family. Voicemails from Mom. Emails from Dad. Even my older brother Jason, who hadn't spoken to me in over a year, suddenly wanted to catch up. They all read the same way. "We miss you. We didn't mean what we said. Come home. Let's start fresh." But I'd already seen how quickly love turns to silence when your choices don't match their script. When I stood at their doorstep, vulnerable and pregnant, all I heard was judgment.
Now?
With Noah's name beside mine, suddenly I was worth something again. And that made me sick. "You okay?" Noah asked me as I walked through the lobby of our new townhouse. He was in the kitchen, shirt sleeves rolled up, making fresh pasta like it was second nature. I let out a slow breath. They're relentless now. Mom's trying to send baby clothes. Dad emailed the lawyer 3 times about the misunderstanding with the trust fund. He nodded slowly, sliding a pan onto the stove. They're not reaching out to fix things. They're reaching out because they're scared of losing access. I leaned against the counter, watching him pour sauce into the skillet. And the part that hurts the most, I whispered, is that even now a small piece of me still wants them to mean it, to really be sorry. He turned off the burner, wiped his hands, and walked over. Ava, love doesn't look like what they gave you. What they did was transactional. If you were valuable, you were welcome. If not, you were disposable. Tears stung my eyes. I tried to blink them away. Then why does it still hurt? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Because you're human, he said, placing a hand over my stomach. But you're also a mother now. And that pain? It's the compass showing you what not to pass on. Later that week, I finally agreed to meet with just one person from my past. My grandmother, Margaret. She'd always been the quiet one at family gatherings, rarely raising her voice, rarely choosing sides. But when she called and simply said, "I owe you an apology," something told me to go. We met at a small park bench, far from the country club she usually frequented. She wore a knitted shawl, her silver hair tied back, her eyes tired but sharp. "I won't waste your time," she said immediately. "I didn't speak up the day they threw you out, and I've regretted it every single night since." I sat, stunned. I don't know what to say. "You don't have to forgive me," she said. "But you do need to know something. When your mother got pregnant with you, she was terrified. She wasn't ready. And your father? He only married her because his father threatened to cut him off if he didn't do the right thing." I froze. I never said anything because it wasn't my story to tell. But now, I see the cycle repeating. Except you. Ava, you broke it. I blinked fast.
How?
Because you chose your child. You didn't let fear drive you. You didn't make excuses or ask for pity. You stood tall, even when it cost you everything. Her voice cracked. "They'll never admit it, but you're stronger than all of them." That night, back at home, I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the tiny hand-knitted booties Margaret gave me. They were made of soft gray yarn, just like the ones she used to knit for us as kids. For once, I didn't feel like I had to defend myself. I just felt seen. That's when Noah walked in, holding a folder. He handed it to me. "What's this?" "A project I've been working on," he said. "For our future." I opened it slowly. Inside were designs, permits, and blueprints. At the top, the Ava Center, a shelter for single moms and expecting women. My hand flew to my mouth. "I know what it felt like to be alone," he said quietly. "I watched you get kicked out of your home. You shouldn't have had to face that without support." I couldn't stop the tears now. "This isn't just for you," he continued. "It's for every woman who's been made to feel like she was less because of her circumstances." I hugged him so tight, he nearly dropped the folder. In that moment, I realized my story wasn't ending with rejection. It was starting with redemption. The next morning, my dad tried one last move. He showed up at my townhouse. Unannounced. Alone. No bravado. No arrogance. Just a man in a wrinkled coat, standing in the rain, holding a box. Noah stood behind me as I opened the door, but didn't say a word. "Hi, sweetheart," Dad began, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. I didn't respond. I brought some things. Your old sketchbooks. That baby blanket you loved. I thought maybe. He trailed off when he saw my face. I was calm. Not angry. Just steady. "Dad," I said. "You only called me daughter when it benefited you. You threw me out not because I made a mistake, but because I didn't live by your rules." He looked down. "I'm not here to hurt you," I added. "But I'm not that girl anymore." I nodded toward the box. "You can leave it, but I won't be opening the door again." He stared for a second, then slowly set the box down and walked away without a word. Back inside, I looked down at my belly. A quiet little kick tapped from within, and I whispered, "You're going to grow up knowing what love really looks like." Because I wouldn't let shame be inherited. I wouldn't let silence define us. I was done being the girl they threw away. Now, I was the woman who rebuilt everything they tried to destroy. The grand opening of the Ava Center didn't just make headlines. It made waves. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was packed. Reporters, advocates, women from shelters, college students, even local politicians. Noah stood beside me, proud and beaming. But this wasn't about him. Or us. It was about every single woman who had been silenced, dismissed, or shamed for choosing to raise a child on her own terms. I stood at the podium, microphone in hand, heart pounding. "My name is Ava Collins," I began. "I was once called a disgrace, an embarrassment. I was told to leave my home, my family, and my name behind just because I chose to keep my baby." The crowd leaned in. But what they didn't realize is that when they slammed the door, they opened something far greater. They gave me freedom. I looked out over the sea of faces, some tearful, some holding children of their own, and smiled. This place isn't just a shelter. It's a second chance. It's what I wish I had when I was sleeping on a friend's couch, clutching a sonogram in the dark. The applause was thunderous. Even Noah wiped a tear away, trying to hide it with a smirk. Later, as the sun dipped below the city skyline, casting gold over the rooftop reception, a familiar voice called from the back.
Ava.
I turned. It was Mom. Alone. No makeup. No pearls. Just her, in a modest cardigan, eyes rimmed with regret. "I shouldn't be here," she said quickly. "But I needed to say this in person." I stayed quiet. She stepped closer. "I didn't defend you that night. I should have screamed at your father to stop. I should have chased after you. But I didn't. And I've lived with that shame every day since." I studied her. The woman who once watched me cry in silence. "I thought control was love," she whispered. "But now I see love is what you showed us.
Strength. Grace.
Forgiveness." I exhaled.
Slowly.
"You were silent when I needed your voice most," I said, not harshly, just honestly. She nodded, eyes wet. "I know. And I may never deserve a second chance. But I wanted you to know. I'm proud of you. And I hope someday your child will be proud of me too." That cracked something inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the door to it. "Time will tell," I replied. 1 month later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Hazel. Noah held her in his arms like she was made of glass and fire all at once, fragile, yet burning with life. "She's got your strength," he whispered. "You see it in her eyes." And maybe he was right, because Hazel came into this world surrounded not by shame, but by purpose, by truth,
By choice.
And when she's older and asks why I walked away from the only family I'd ever known, I'll look her in the eyes and say, because sometimes you have to walk away from what breaks you to become what saves you.
And that
was the day I stopped being their disappointment and became my own legacy.